My mom begged me to come home for the holiday. After an 8-hour drive, I arrived and she opened the door and said, "You're babysitting your sister's kids. We're going to Hawaii." Then my sister muttered, "Kids, don't wipe your feet on him." Parents burst out laughing, but the smiles disappeared from their faces when I announced what made them turn pale. Now they're begging me not to leave. I drove 8 hours straight from Chicago to the middle of nowhere near Cincinnati because my mom said she missed me. She went on and on about how much she missed her son, how the holidays weren't the same without family, how everyone was going to be there, and how great it would be if we could all just be together again like old times. She left that last part in a voicemail, crying halfway through. I listened to it twice before I called her back and said, "Yes, I'd come." I cleared my work schedule, postponed a trip I'd been planning for months, booked a dog sitter for the week. All the way there, I kept thinking that maybe, just maybe, this year would be different, that maybe they actually wanted me there. I even bought gifts, real ones, not the usual gift cards, things I actually took the time to pick out. One for each of them. By the time I pulled into the driveway, it was dark. The street was dead quiet. One of those neighborhoods that's so picturesque, it's almost fake. I sat in the car for a second, checking my phone. A text from my sister. "Hurry up. I have to pee." It didn't make sense until later. I went upstairs with my bag and rang the doorbell. My mom answered with a big smile that didn't touch her eyes and said, "You're going to take care of your sister's kids. We're going to Hawaii." She stepped aside as if it had already been decided, like I volunteered. Mandy walked by in flip-flops and a tank top. Mid-December, and she was dressed for a beach. "Kids, don't wipe your feet on him." They laughed. My mom, my dad, Mandy. The kids yelled something I couldn't understand and ran off. I stood in the foyer holding my bag, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. I asked her what she meant, thinking maybe it was a joke I didn't get. She said they were leaving the next morning. They already had the tickets and they just needed me to watch the kids for a week. Like it was no big deal. Like I didn't have a life. She even said, "You're not doing anything anyway, right?" So I told them. I didn't want to say it then, but it just came out. Something I'd kept to myself, something I thought they'd be proud of or at least pretend to be. I told them that I'd gotten the offer, that I was moving across the country in 2 weeks, a huge step up, that this would be the last Christmas I'd be around for a long time. The room fell silent. My dad looked like he just swallowed something sharp. My mom's smile broke in half. Mandy didn't even try to hide the way she rolled her eyes. And then the begging began. They asked me to please stay, said it wouldn't change anything, that they really wanted me here, that I could still help with the kids for a few days, that Hawaii wasn't even that long, said they'd bring me something nice from the trip. But they'd already tipped their hand. They thought I was just an extra, the one who could be guilted into dropping everything, the one who'd always say yes. Not this time. They just didn't know it yet. I didn't freak out right away. I just let it all wash over me like cold water. Let them pack. Let them smile. Let them give me the responsibility of 2 wild children as if they were giving me an old sweater instead of 2 living, breathing children I hadn't seen in over a year. I slept in the basement. The kids' toys were scattered everywhere. Legos, half-broken dolls, an iPad with a greasy screen that kept playing obnoxious cartoons at full volume. My old bed gone. My mom's explanation was, "We turned your room into something more useful." I lay there staring at the ceiling thinking what a joke this was. How every time I showed up, it was on their terms. Never once had they asked if I had any plans. Never once had they offered to help me with anything. And now they'd literally left the country expecting me to drop my life. I got up early the next morning. The house was noisy. My mom yelling about sunscreen. My dad grumbling about the airline app. Mandy trying to wrangle her kids who were already sugared up from cereal. No one even looked at me until it was time to leave. Then my mom with her suitcase already in the trunk said, "Thanks again for doing this. I mean it. You're a lifesaver." She handed me a sheet of printer paper with some important information on it. Bedtimes, snack preferences, a list of shows they're allowed to watch, which mostly just said anything but horror or the news. Mandy leaned in, sunglasses on, already in vacation mode. "Please don't let them eat marshmallows after dark. They go wild. Then she handed me a $20 bill and said, "For pizza or something." A 20. They backed out of the driveway like they were running from something. My dad hid as they disappeared down the street. And just like that, I was alone with the kids in a week's worth of expectations that I never met. I didn't even know what they had really done until later that day. Around 3 p.m. I was looking for the Wi-Fi password and ended up opening the drawer where my mom keeps all the random papers. There was a folder with her flight itinerary, the hotel confirmation, and the receipt charged to my credit card. It hit me like a punch in the ribs. My sister had used my old card, the one we'd shared years ago when she said she needed help booking something urgent, and swore she'd cancel it. Apparently, she never did. I sat there and stared at the bill. 5 nights at a luxury resort, a rental car, spa add-ons, even a snorkeling tour. It was all in my name. I called the hotel to confirm. And yes, it was mine. It was using my points, too. And that's when it hit me. Clean, quiet, no screaming, no shouting, just simple. I canceled it. Every reservation, every upgrade. I watched the email come through confirming that the room had been released. The rental car returned to inventory. The excursions can lead. No refunds either. This part actually made me smile. Then I waited. At 11:42 p.m., the first call came from my mom. I didn't answer. Then my dad. Then my sister, over and over until she finally texted, "Why are we locked out of the hotel? What's going on?" I didn't answer. The kids were finally asleep upstairs. The house was quiet for the first time all day. I sat on the back porch with a beer from the garage fridge and looked up at the sky. No stars, just the orange haze of city lights, but still peaceful. Around 12:30, she sent the next one. "Did you cancel the reservation? Tell me you didn't. I used your card because it was easier. I wanted to pay you back then. You're such a little drama queen. Grow up. Fix this." That got an answer. "Don't worry about it. I'm done fixing things for you." By the next morning, the tone had changed. They weren't angry anymore. They were desperate. My dad tried to pretend it was a misunderstanding. He said they were in a bind and just needed a few hours to figure things out. My mom sent a long paragraph about how she didn't realize the card was still active. Mandy just went silent until 3 p.m. She called and left a message. I didn't even listen to it. I knew exactly what was going to happen, but I wasn't done yet. By the third day, the tone had completely shifted from confusion to panic. I woke up to a dozen missed calls, 2 blocked voicemails, and a string of texts from my mom that read like a prayer, each more pathetic than the last. They were staying at some cheap motel now. No beach, no air conditioning, no refund. And apparently Mandy's kids had gotten food poisoning from gas station sushi. I couldn't make that up if I tried. I made the kids pancakes again, this time with chocolate chips. I let them watch whatever they wanted. I didn't care anymore. They actually grew fond of me. Once they realized I wasn't trying to be their new parent, they calmed down. We spent that afternoon building the world's ugliest pillow fort and laughing about how my sister makes them do mindfulness breathing when they fight. One of them said, "Mommy says deep breathing makes us less annoying." That night, just before bedtime, the front door flew open. No knock, no warning. Mandy was standing there in flip-flops, her hair a mess, her forehead sunburned. My mom was behind her, looking 5 years older, and my dad came in last, dragging their battered luggage as if they just fled a war zone. "You think this is funny?" Mandy said. The kids froze. I told them to go upstairs. They did, but not before one of them whispered, "Told you she'd come back pissed." When they were out of earshot, Mandy started. Called me selfish. Said I ruined her only real vacation in years. That I was a spiteful little man-child who couldn't handle being asked to do one thing for his family. My mom stood behind her nodding like this was all just a misunderstanding that I needed to apologize for. I let her go on for almost 5 minutes. I said nothing. Then I reached for the envelope on the kitchen table. I quietly slid it over to my mother. "What's this?" she said. "It's the bank statement." I told her. "And this?" I pulled out a second sheet dash. "Is the notice from my lawyer." I reported the fraud. My father stepped forward, but I cut him off. "She used my card without my permission." Over $4,000. You know what that's called? My mom's face fell. Mandy started yelling again, but it all turned to noise. Something about how I was blowing it out of proportion, how it was family, how no judge would take it seriously. She said if I kept pushing, I'd regret it. I told her I already had. That was when she made the mistake. She brought up Dad's will. Said, "Go ahead, Nathan. Report it." Do you think Mom and Dad would leave anything to someone who stabbed their own family in the back? My mom looked horrified that she said it out loud. My dad turned away. I didn't raise my voice. I just smiled. "Thanks for confirming that's how you see it." And then I pulled out my phone and hit play on a voice memo. Mandy 2 days earlier screaming into the voicemail about how she'd used my card because it's easier and how I should just fix it like I always do. She turned pale. "You recorded me?" I nodded, and I've already sent it to my lawyer. So yeah, go ahead and threaten me again. That was the first time I'd ever seen my mother sit down without being told to. Mandy stormed out. My dad didn't say a word. I stayed one more night for the kids, but I was done being quiet. I left before sunrise. I didn't clean up breakfast, fold the sheets off the basement futon, write a note. I just grabbed my duffel bag, put the key on the kitchen counter, and walked out the same door they walked out when they left me babysitting for a week without asking. I drove straight back to Chicago, not even stopping for coffee. My phone kept buzzing, but I didn't check it. I figured Mandy had already started rewriting the story before I even got on the freeway. She was always that fast. Facts never really slowed her down. About halfway through Indiana, I gave in and looked. 62 missed messages, 12 voicemails, 6 from unknown numbers. A group chat I hadn't seen active since my grandmother's funeral had lit up with over 100 texts. Mandy had gone into overdrive, sent a carefully edited version of events to every relative with a phone, said I'd ruined her vacation out of spite, claimed I manipulated them into using my card, then turned around and threatened legal action. She ended it with something like, "Family means nothing to him. He's changed." That part was true. I had changed. The thing is, Mandy thought she was smart. She thought she could get everyone on her side with guilt and half-truths as usual. But she didn't realize that something had changed. People had been biting their tongues for years, and now she was giving them an excuse to open up. The first response came from Aunt Melanie. Just one sentence. "Didn't you once borrow my car for a weekend and return it 2 months later with a broken window?" Then my cousin Josh added, "Nathan doesn't need to manipulate anyone. He's the only one in this family with a job that doesn't involve lying or commissions." One by one, people started chiming in. Not just defending me, but dragging them along. Stories I didn't even know. Old debts, Christmas drama, time she forgot, birthdays, or showed up late and drunk at family functions. One person called her a walking tax write-off. Another said she made them pay for their own food at her child's birthday party. By the time I pulled into my apartment's parking garage, the group chat was on fire. My mother had tried to intervene once, saying, "Let's all calm down," but she was too late. Mandy had armed the family and they turned on her first. That night around midnight, my phone lit up again. It was my dad. He didn't even say hello. He just launched into a half-hearted explanation about how things had gotten out of hand. How Mandy never meant to use the card. How maybe it would be best if we all just sat down and talked like adults. I asked him a question. "Why didn't you stop it when you saw it happening?" He got quiet. Then he said, "I didn't think it was that serious." That was always the problem. It was never serious to them unless it cost them something. Then came the messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. Cousins, uncles. A woman I barely remembered from a family reunion in Michigan. Most of them said the same thing. "Good for you. It's about time somebody said something." And then Sunday morning, just before noon, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to see my mother standing there. Her hair pulled back, her face washed out, wearing the same coat she always wore when she was upset, but tried not to show it. The kind of coat she used to wear to my school when I got in trouble. I hadn't seen it in years. I drove all night. She said, "I need to talk to you." I didn't let her in. We stood in the hallway while she explained that Mandy had locked herself in her room. The kids were staying with her dad for the week and my dad wasn't speaking to any of them. Said the family was falling apart. Said I had to help fix it. I let her talk. She cried quietly. Told me I was overreacting. That yes, mistakes had been made, but surely the family could work through these things. She said I should understand how hard things had been for Mandy being a single mom and all, how stressful the world had been lately. She asked me if I really wanted to be the reason things got worse. So, I told her something she wasn't expecting. I told her that I'd already moved on, that I didn't need her anymore, that I wasn't going to set myself on fire just to keep her warm. Not again. Not ever again. She tried to say something else, but I stepped back and gently closed the door. And I didn't feel guilty. After I closed the door, I stood there for a while listening. She didn't knock again. She didn't say anything. Finally, I heard the soft creak of the elevator coming down the hall. That was the last time I saw my mother face to face. The next day, I got a call from my attorney. Mandy had finally responded to the formal letter through a lawyer. Apparently, one of her friends knew a guy who owed her a favor. They weren't trying to deny the accusation, not really just spinning it. Their official position was that I had implied that consented to the charges by providing access to the card. Their words, what they didn't know was that I had already flagged the account months ago. Had everything in writing from the bank, every transaction, every timestamp. The hotel even confirmed that the reservation was made from Mandy's IP address. Her name was all over the records. There was no case and her lawyer knew it. That afternoon, he called mine and said something that told me everything I needed to know. She wants this to go away quietly. I didn't react right away. I let her sweat. Meanwhile, the family group chat went dark. Someone, probably Mandy, had deleted it. My mother tried to call again. I didn't answer. My dad sent me one of those vague boomer texts. Hope you're okay. Things are complicated. Let's reconnect soon. I ignored that too. But the real turning point came from someone I wasn't expecting. Mandy's ex. He sent me a message out of the blue. Just said, heard what happened. Not surprised. Are you okay? We talked for over an hour. Turns out he'd been through something similar with her years ago. Different situation, same playbook. Guilt, manipulation, taking what she felt entitled to and spinning it into a sob story when caught. He even offered to help me with the lawyer stuff if I needed it. He ended the call by saying, "You're not the first person she's used, just the first one to fight back." That stuck with me. By Friday, my lawyer had drafted a final offer. No charges, no court, no public embarrassment on one condition. Full repayment of every dollar charged to my card in writing through her lawyer within 90 days. No extensions. The response was a temper tantrum disguised as a legal email. Mandy claimed she didn't have the funds, that this would ruin her, that I was punishing her children. That last part, that's what pissed me off. So I told my lawyer to go ahead. The next few weeks were quiet. My mother went radio silent. I guess she realized that the usual emotional blackmail wasn't going to work this time. My dad sent a card in the mail, a generic Hallmark thing with some handwritten nonsense about forgiveness and healing. I threw it in the trash without opening the envelope. Then one day the remittance came through. All of it. Full repayment. I stood there staring at the confirmation email for a good 5 minutes. Not because I was surprised, but because I knew what it meant. She wasn't sorry. She was just scared. I made one last trip that weekend. Not to see her, but to pick up the last of my things from a storage unit I paid for near her house. While I was in town, I got a message from my aunt, the one who always hosts a Thanksgiving. She said the family was planning a little get-together in a few weeks and they hoped I'd come. I told her that I appreciated the invitation, but no, I wouldn't be there. I was done showing up just to be the one they laughed at, leaned on, or left out. I'd spent years trying to stay connected with people who only called when they needed something. This time I walked away. It's funny how quickly people disappear when they realize they can't blame you anymore. After the money hit my account and the emails from their lawyer stopped, everything just went quiet. Like they knew I was finally off the leash and there was no pulling me back. No more last-minute calls to help out. No more guilty voicemails about how we used to be a family. Nothing. Just silence. Thanksgiving came first. The same aunt who defended me in the group chat ended up texting me a photo of the dinner table. Half the chairs were empty. She wrote, "Mandy didn't show up. Neither did your parents. Don't think anyone missed the drama. Christmas was next." I always went no matter how bad the year had been. Even in college, even when I could barely afford gas, this time I didn't. I stayed in Chicago. Went to a holiday misfits potluck hosted by one of my coworkers. A bunch of people who'd also cut ties with toxic families just sat around drinking boxed wine, eating overcooked lasagna, and playing stupid board games. And you know what? It was the best Christmas I'd had in years. There was this guy at the party, really quiet, kind of awkward. He just had no contact with his dad after years of emotional manipulation. He asked me how I knew it was time to finally leave. I told him something I read once on Reddit years ago back when I thought maybe I was the one being dramatic. It said, "If they didn't treat you like family when they had you, they can't call it betrayal when you leave." That stuck with me because that's what happened. My family only cared about me when I was useful. When I drove 8 hours and slept in the basement. When I paid for things they didn't want to pay for. When I kept my mouth shut. The second I said no, I was the bad guy. I kept expecting someone to break the silence. Maybe my mom with one of her fake check-in texts, the kind that started with, "Hope you're doing okay," and ended with a long paragraph about how much I'd hurt her. Or my dad pretending none of it happened, trying to draw me into a conversation about sports like we were just two regular guys. But nothing came. And the longer it went on, the easier it got. In February, I finally cleaned out the old storage unit near her house. Just threw out what I didn't want, donated the rest, a stack of yearbooks, old holiday cards, a broken Xbox controller that I never fixed. I found a shoebox full of family photos in the back, dusty and bent at the corners. I looked through maybe 5 of them before I closed the box and left it in the donation pile. I thought I'd feel something. I didn't. A week later, I got a final text from Mandy. Just 4 words. "Are you happy now?" I didn't reply because I was not the kind of happy that makes you jump up and down, but the quiet kind. The kind where you wake up in the morning and your stomach isn't in knots. The kind where you make plans for the future and don't have to worry about how much emotional energy your family is draining from you. The kind where you finally stop feeling like someone else's backup plan. I still don't talk to them. I probably never will again. But I don't hate them. I don't wish them pain. I just don't wish them anything. And I think that's what peace really looks like. My update. So, I didn't think I'd be back here, honestly. After everything that happened over the holidays, I thought that chapter was closed. No calls, no texts, no weird birthday card with passive-aggressive Bible verses. Just silence. It was perfect until last week. Out of nowhere, I get this certified letter delivered to my apartment. Real official looking. I thought maybe it had something to do with taxes or work. No, it's from a law firm, not mine. Turns out my parents are now talking to a probate lawyer. And guess what? They want to change something about the family estate. Specifically, they want to discuss the structure of future inheritance and family financial responsibilities. That's literally what it says. I had to read it 3 times. Basically, they're trying to put together some kind of new trust or arrangement that this includes a clause about family caregiving roles and responsibilities. In other words, they're trying to get ahead of things and make sure that someone guesses who is legally obligated to take care of certain family burdens in exchange for staying in the will. And when I say someone, I mean me. The same guy they used as a babysitter whose credit card they stole, who they humiliated in his own childhood home. The same guy they haven't spoken to in months. I called my lawyer before I finished the letter. He laughed, really laughed, said he'd seen this kind of move before, usually a mix of desperation and control, trying to lure someone back in with the idea of a future inheritance while slowly roping them into caretaking or financial support down the line. And yes, it can be contested if they try to force anything. But the fact that they're even thinking that way, wild. It gets better. Apparently, Mandy is the one pushing for this. My lawyer got a heads up from someone on the other side that Mandy is trying to angle herself back into good standing with my parents, but part of her deal is to shift responsibility for anything long-term, debt, care, property, etc., away from herself to me, the reliable one, even after everything. So yeah, looks like this saga isn't over yet. I'll keep you posted if I end up in a legal showdown over a house I don't even want and responsibilities I never asked for. Reddit was right. Just when you think you're out, they try to drag you back in. Not this time.